Hey everyone, my name is Jeff Swamp. I'm a member of the Teen Advisory Board here for the Howard County Library System, and today we'll be going over strings and string methods. So first we'll go over strings, and then later we'll move on to string methods. So let's get started. So a string is a data type that stores multiple characters. So strings can be written into variables. So capital string, your variable name equals quotation marks. So you need quotation marks for strings, okay? So string var equals quotation marks, and then multiple characters. So characters just stuff like this. So alphabet letters, alphabet letters like this, numbers, symbols, punctuation, those are all characters. So multiple characters would be considered a string. So let's just put a bunch of random, alphabet letters. That's a string, okay? So alphabet letters, a mix of numbers, and a mix of symbols, some punctuation also. So that's a string, okay? So strings can have meaning to them. So you can create a sentence with a string. Okay. So I am Jeswant. That's a string. Okay. So the thing about numbers in strings, so I'll just say 5, right? So numbers in strings cannot do mathematical operations. So with an integer and a double, you can do mathematical operations. So if you did something like 5 times 6, you would get 30. But when you try to do that in a string, you'll get an error. So right here, I get 5 times 6. I'll create a print statement. And then my variable, I want to print out my variable. So I'll run this, and I get an error because you cannot do that. You cannot do mathematical operations with strings. Okay. So strings, they don't need to be stored in variables like I showed you. So you could just technically just do this. Okay, so you can do that. And then I'll print it out. And it prints out the string. So strings can contain escape characters. And escape characters just format strings. So I'm going to create a basic string. Okay, so notice the spaces I put in. So these spaces technically count as a character. Okay, so just keep that in mind. So I'm going to put in escape character right here. So this is the escape character I put in, \n. And what this is going to do, every time you see this, it's going to switch to a new line. Okay. So I'm going to put one more escape character in, and I'm going to run it. And I don't get anything. And it's because I didn't put my variable in here. So when I run it again, I get brownie cake salad all in separate lines. Okay. So this is what the escape character \n will do. So there's more escape characters out there, but for our purposes for today, that's all you really need to know. So next up we have string methods, and a string method manipulates a string and does tasks on those strings. Okay, so first I'm just going to create a couple of variables. So string brownie equals quotation marks brownie. Once again, you need the quotation marks for strings. So another variable. All right. So I'm just going to get a print statement set up. Okay. So the first string method that we have is to uppercase. So, okay. So we take our variable and then we do dot and then the string method. So in this case, I said to uppercase. Okay. And then parentheses. All right. So when I run this, I notice that it's in all caps now. So previously it was in all lowercase letters. Once I put the string method to uppercase, it made everything into caps. Okay. So that is what two uppercase does. Okay. So next up we have two lowercase, and it's pretty much the exact opposite of two uppercase. It just puts everything in lowercase. So to demonstrate that, I'm just gonna change cookie to be in all caps. All right, and then I'm gonna change our variable to cookie. So I want to perform a string method on cookie, and what string method do I want to perform? Two lowercase. Okay, so when I run this, cookie is in all lowercase. Okay, so the next string method that we have is length. So length will tell me how long a string is. So how many characters are in the string. So I want to find how long cookie is. So cookie dot length parentheses. We run this, and so we get a length of 6. So there's 6 characters in cookie. Okay. So notice this. So I'm just going to put 2 spaces in. Let's run it. And so we get a length of 8. So the spaces that you put in strings, they count as characters. So the next string method that we have is trim. So I'm going to change our brownie variable to have some spaces in it in the beginning, in the end, and then, it's already got some spaces in the middle. So I'm going to do brownie, sorry, I can't spell, brownie.trim. Okay. So what this is going to do, it's going to remove all of the spaces in the beginning and at the end. However, it's going to leave the spaces in the middle. So when we run this, the beginning spaces has been trimmed, the end spaces has been trimmed. However, the middle has stayed the same. Okay, so that's what trim does. So next up we have replace. So I'm going to change our variable back to being without spaces. So I'm going to do brownie dot replace. And so this string method takes 2 arguments. So the first argument it takes is the thing that you want to be replaced. So let's say I want to replace Jeswant with like Alex, for example. So I would do quotation marks, Jeswant, okay, comma, quotation marks, Alex, like this. Okay, so when I run this, I get I am Alex now. So Jeswant has been replaced with Alex. Okay, so that's what the replace string method does. So the next string method that we have is char at. So I'm going to do cookie.char at. Notice the capital A in there, okay? Parentheses, okay? So this takes an index number as its argument. So the way that you count indexes is that you go from 0 onwards. So C is the 0 index, O is the first index, the other O is going to be the second index, right? So it's going 0 onwards, so 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. So let's say if I wanted to print out the K in here, so let's count our indexes. So 0, 1, 2, 3. So that's the third index. So cookie.char at 3, and we get K printed out. Next, we have starts with. So I'm going to do cookie.starts with parentheses. So this takes an argument. So first, it's going to take that variable, and then whatever argument you give it, it's going to check to see if that variable starts with what argument you gave it. Okay. So in this case, my variable starts with C. So I'm going to put, capital C, and I have an extra parentheses right here. Okay. So when I run this, this should work. And so I get true. So my variable does start with C. Okay. So I gave it an argument of C. It took the variable, it checked to see if it started with, the argument I gave it, and it did, so it returned true. So let's put something that it doesn't start with. So something like Z. It doesn't start with it, it's not even in the string, okay? So I run it and we get false. Let's do like K, for example. We get false because it doesn't start with whatever I specified it. Okay, so the thing is with this, you can have multiple characters. So I could do something like this. COOK. COOK. So technically this does start with COOK. So I'll run this and I get true. Okay. So you can use a single character and you can also use multiple characters with this. Next we have ends with, and that's pretty much the opposite of starts with. So cookie.ends with parentheses and then quotation marks. So it takes an argument just like starts with. However, it checks to see whatever you specify it. It checks to see if that variable ends with, whatever you specify. So cookie.ends with e. So when I run this, I should get true because it does end with e. And so like starts with, it can take multiple characters. So I'll put I. Let's read this. So we get COOKIE. So it does end with IE right here. So when I run this, I should get true, and I do get true. So let's specify something that we know is going to be false. So we know it doesn't end with CO. So when we run this, we should get false, and we do. So the next two string methods require if statements. So if you need help with that, check out our video on that because I will not be going over them in a lot of detail. So we have the equals string method. So to do that, you would do your variable dot equals and then an argument of another string. So in this case, I'm just going to put my variable. So brownie dot equals cookie. So if brownie equals cookie, so if this string equals that string, print true. So execute this statement. And if it doesn't, execute this statement. So first of all, we know brownie is not equal to cookie because this is in all lowercase and cookie is in all caps. So we're going to get false from this. And so when we run this, we do get false. Next, we have equals ignore case, and that functions pretty similarly to equals, except it ignores the capitalizations. So I'm going to do brownie dot equals capital I G N O R E capital C A S E. Equals ignore case parentheses, and it also takes an argument. So I'm just going to do cookie. And so like I said, it ignores the capitalization. So if brownie equals cookie, but ignore the capitalization. So if this equals this, but ignore the capitalization, execute true. Okay. So we're going to get true from this because, it ignored the capitalization. It's true. So we get true. So that's it for today. I had a lot of fun. I hope everyone learned something. Once again, my name is Jeswan. Have a great day.